Ever wondered how cowboys and pioneers handled nature's call back in the Wild West? It wasn't exactly a five-star experience. Forget fluffy towels and scented candles. We're talking a whole different level of roughing it. So saddle up, because we're about to take a deep dive into the surprisingly grimy world of 19th century frontier bathrooms. Let's start with the most iconic piece of bathroom tech from the era, the outhouse. You've seen them in movies, right? That little wooden shed standing lonely out in a field. Well, the reality was even less glamorous. These were often just a simple structure built over a deep hole in the ground. No flushing, no plumbing, just you, a wooden bench with a hole cut in it, and whatever critters decided to call that pit home. Spiders, snakes, you name it. It was a genuine concern that something might bite you where the sun doesn't shine. And the smell? Let's just say it was potent. To try and combat the odor, people would toss lime, lye, or even just dirt down the hole. This also helped decompose the waste faster. But on a hot summer day, there was no escaping it. The classic crescent moon you see carved into outhouse doors wasn't just for decoration. Before widespread literacy, symbols were key. The moon was traditionally a symbol for the women's side, while a sun or starburst might mark the men's. In reality, most families or homesteads just had one, so the symbol became a simple way to let light and air in. Privacy was a luxury, and you'd often find outhouses with 2 or even 3 holes side by side. Imagine having a friendly chat while taking care of business. Awkward. When winter rolled around, that midnight trip to the outhouse became a truly heroic journey. Trudging through snow and freezing wind just to use a toilet that was basically a wooden box in a blizzard. No, thank you. This is where our next piece of essential equipment comes in, the chamber pot. For those who didn't want to brave the elements, the chamber pot was the go-to solution. It was basically a portable toilet, a ceramic or metal bowl kept right there in the bedroom, often tucked under the bed. You'd use it during the night, and then in the morning, someone had the delightful chore of slopping out, carrying the pot outside to empty its contents. Where did they dump it? Well, hopefully into the outhouse pit, or a designated waste area. But in bustling frontier towns, it wasn't uncommon for people to just toss it out the window into the street below. Seriously, you had to watch your step, and maybe your head, when walking through town in the morning. The phrase, "look out below," was a very real and necessary warning. So, you've done your business. What's next? Today we have endless options for toilet paper, but in the Old West, things were a bit more resourceful. Toilet paper, as we know it on a roll, wasn't commercially available until the 1890s, and even then, it was a luxury item. So what did people use? Whatever was free and available. The most common option was the Sears, Roebuck & Co. catalog. It was delivered for free, printed on soft, absorbent, uncoated paper, and it was thick. Once you were done browsing for a new saddle or a pair of boots, the catalog would be hung by a string in the outhouse for its secondary purpose. People also used old newspapers, letters, and corn cobs. Yes, you heard that right. Dried corn cobs were a surprisingly popular choice. They were reusable in a way. You'd use one, rinse it off, and leave it for the next person. Let that sink in for a moment. Other natural options included smooth stones, leaves, or even a handful of grass. It really makes you appreciate that 2-ply roll you have at home, doesn't it? Now let's talk about getting clean. Bathing was not a daily ritual, not even a weekly one for many. Water was a precious resource, especially on the trail or in arid regions. It had to be hauled by hand from a well or a river, and then heated over a fire. This was a time-consuming and labor-intensive process, so baths were a special occasion, maybe once a month if you were lucky. The whole family would often use the same bath water. Picture this. A large metal or wooden tub is brought into the kitchen, the warmest room in the house. It's filled with heated water. The man of the house, the father, gets to go first, getting the cleanest water. Then, the other men and boys would take their turn. Finally, the women and girls would bathe, with the baby being the very last. By the end, that water would be murky, gray, and just plain disgusting. This is where the saying, "Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater" comes from. The water was so cloudy, you genuinely had to be careful not to accidentally toss out the infant who was bathing in it. Soap was also different. It was usually homemade from animal fat, lye, and ash. This stuff wasn't gentle. It was harsh, smelled funky, and would strip your skin of every natural oil. But it got the job done, sort of. In between these rare full-body baths, people relied on a simple basin of water and a cloth for a quick spit bath, just washing the important bits. Hair was washed even less frequently, maybe a few times a year. And without modern toothpaste, people cleaned their teeth with things like salt, soot, or a frayed twig. Dental hygiene was not a priority, which is why so many people in old photos look so grim. They were often hiding missing or rotten teeth. In the rapidly growing frontier towns, sanitation was a massive problem. There were no sewer systems. Streets were a mix of dirt, mud, and a foul combination of horse manure, household garbage, and the contents of those chamber pots we mentioned earlier. When it rained, these streets turned into a thick, stinking stew. This lack of sanitation was a breeding ground for diseases like cholera, typhoid, and dysentery, which could sweep through a town and wipe out a significant portion of the population. People didn't yet understand germ theory. They believed diseases were caused by miasma, or bad smells. While they were entirely wrong, the bad smells were a sign of the filth that harbored germs. Their methods for fighting disease were often misguided. So, while we often romanticize the Wild West with images of rugged cowboys and wide-open spaces, the day-to-day reality was far from glamorous. It was a world without basic modern conveniences, where staying clean and healthy was a constant struggle. Next time you complain about cleaning the bathroom, just remember the world of corn cobs, shared bathwater, and streets that were open sewers. It really puts things into perspective. The pioneers and cowboys of the Old West were tough, resilient people, and now you know just how tough they had to be even when answering the simplest call of nature. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this trip back in time, be sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history. See you next time.